invest in, so let's hear about it.
Well, thank you. Good evening. So here is the first rule of Flight Club. We always talk about Flight Club. I'm Ajay. I'm the founder of Flight Club. So here's my story. How many of you guys got stuck at an airport because flights got cancelled? You are stuck. Oh, everybody. I would say everybody. And that was my situation. About 2 years ago, I was at an airport in Minnesota. And Delta decided last minute to cancel the flights, which is fine, things happen, weather, whatever it is. But the challenge was they never told us when the next flight is. I would say from 1 o'clock, it went to 11 p.m. And that's when they said, guys, there are no more flights. So I ended up sleeping at the airport on a chair for about 8 hours because I had to go to a meeting to New York City to present to my client. So that's my story, and that's when I came up with Flight Club. This is a challenge. Today, there are a lot of services, a lot of apps, a lot of portals where you can do your booking, where, in your office, you have agencies doing it. But there's no solution for you. There's no one solution when you're at the airport, when you're actually flying, when you're going through the journey. So our solution was, how do we make your airport experience better? Your flying experience better, but more importantly, at the airport. This is actually a code. When I was at the Denver airport, that's a picture from Denver airport. I was going through the TSA lines, and the person behind me said, this is much worse than a fish market. And if you guys know what fish market is, so a lot more crowds, a lot more people. So here is what the business is. About 2.5 million passengers traveling in and out, majority business, but also regular travel. And on an average, about 26,000 people flying in and out different airports. So that's a huge volume. And that's when I came up. But there has to be a better way for you when you're actually flying. That's how Flight Club was born. One of the biggest challenges at the airport is the lines, right? You are at the TSA line. You are at a line to grab your coffee or food. You are at a line to actually board your plane. So everywhere there's a line. Now, quite honestly, I'm not a government official. I can't do anything about TSA lines. Yes, you can get, pre-TSA, all that stuff, but unfortunately, even that's taking longer. But the biggest thing what we saw was people spend a lot of time trying to get some food, trying to, grab a cup of coffee, get some food, because they don't want to pay, $5 on the flight for a 5-day-old salad, right? We said, why don't we build a platform where people can pre-order their food, and instead of waiting in line, go out and just grab the food from the restaurant and head to your gate. You save 15, 20 minutes right there. And the challenge at the airport is it's not just money, but it's time. You are very limited in time, and that's our solution is how do we solve the time. So the first thing is we have a feature called Grab and Go, where today we are live in about 30 airports, DFW being one of the big ones. LAX, Houston, Atlanta, Denver, Seattle, all the big ones, and we are live in 5 airports in UK, where you can pre-order food from any restaurant, and instead of waiting in line, you just go in there, show your code on your mobile phone, and just pick it up from there. So you're skipping 10, 15, 20 minutes, so that way you can head directly to your flight. Great, okay, you've done that, but once you've done that, fine, you have some time before you actually board your flight, 15, 20 minutes. Especially if you're a business traveler, why don't you leverage that time into something better? Is you actually network with your fellow passengers. So I just heard a story earlier, Kyle was talking about somebody who actually got a job by talking to a person right sitting next to him on the flight. And I'm sure you guys can relate to some of the stories. So why not actually network with people on the same flight? So we have a feature called Flight Connect. You get to see who else you're flying with on the same flight. and you have an opportunity to connect with them before, during, or after the flight. And this actually helps for business travelers when you're looking for your potential customer, your potential partner, or a new hire as a new employee. That's where you have an advantage. Currently we are live, as I mentioned. The app and the platform is live. We are live in about 30 airports here in the US and 5 in the UK, expanding to markets like India and Singapore. The new features which we're planning to add is duty-free shopping. Because what I've seen, and this is something which actually came from one of the big CEOs of duty-free, is people do not realize that actually the products at duty-free is much more cheaper, and they don't know where the stores are. So we actually want to bring them onto our platform so that you can do the shopping ahead of time, get that actually delivered to you. And then finally, autonomous delivery, which is instead of you actually going to the restaurant, we actually want to be able to deliver the food to your gate. We have looked at a possibility of using rovers, people to actually move from the restaurant to the gate, but a lot of challenges, security, cost, and things as such. So we are actually working with a company out in Stanford to be able to build robots to pick the food from the restaurant and bring it to your gate, so you don't have to walk to the gate. So these are the solutions. One, again, like I said, is business networking, which is huge. It translates into a lot of opportunity. Skipping the lines, you don't have to wait in line to grab a cup of coffee or lunch. And we have features where, obviously, we integrate with a lot of airline apps, wherein you can get information ahead of time, whether things are canceled, scheduled, weather delays, things as such. And finally is the robot delivery, which is still in the works, we're still in the prototype. As a matter of fact, after we told DFW Airport that San Francisco Airport is looking into that, they jumped on it right away. So I'm actually meeting them next week, and hopefully it will translate into something business. Where we are, the idea itself started when I was on a flight from Minnesota, but then slowly build the product. A small lean team, just 3 people. Actually, I have one of my, if I have to say, cohorts who's actually here trying to help me out. But we started with the networking feature. Quite honestly, that was a great idea, but from a revenue perspective, we really didn't see much opportunity up there. That's when we added Grab and Go, which is we actually get revenues from the restaurants, from the food services, to bring in customers to them. And then, as we build the product, we are live in 30 airports here in the US and 5. There's one company, duty-free shop company called Duty-Free out in Switzerland. They really like this idea. And again, their whole challenge is, actually this was a quote from the CEO, is that most of the people who are flying, they don't know where the duty-free stores are, right? And number 2 is the time limitation. You would love to buy a product for your family, for your co-workers and things as such, which is much cheaper, but then you don't know where the stores are. Even in DFW, believe me, only Terminal D has duty-free stores, right? But even if you land in Terminal A or D, you still have a capability to buy it. But you really don't have to go to Terminal D. So we're working on that. We are expanding internationally, working with airports in India, Germany, and Brazil. But the big next step where we are focusing is on the robot delivery. There's a prototype that is built for food delivery out of a company in Stanford, and they were nice enough to help us out. And 2 airports which are looking into is the DFW. So hopefully in the next 6 months, your next food order might be delivered by a robot, and then the San Francisco airport. So these are the ones which we're looking at. These are the airports, again, like I said, big ones: Atlanta, LA, Houston, Dallas. Still working on JFK. JFK is a little bit of a challenge, but hopefully we'll get them on. These are some of the features, and again, the app is live, both on iOS and Android. Try it out. One thing I do want to highlight is, as we develop this app, one of the big questions that we were asked was, what if this converts into a dating app, right? You're connecting people, and that's fine, as long as people are connecting. But what we did was, this is an invitation-only app. And what I mean by that is we ensure that you have a valid Facebook profile, you have a valid LinkedIn profile, but also as you go in, if you download the app, we actually provide a code so that you'll be able to get into that. So that's why the name behind it is a club. So it is invitation only. And today, if you guys want to download the field for invitation, you can use the code FlyHappy. Just download that and use the code FlyHappy. What's the market? Again, especially if you're talking about the food orders, it's huge. It's 928 million. And for us, the two big revenue components is actually we get a percentage from the food orders. So today we are revenue positive. As a matter of fact, I think last year, thank you. It took about 2.5 years, but we are. And then the additional cost, which are additional revenues, which you're looking at, is the actual delivery cost. We have different actual membership models based on B2B or B2C. We are actually working with few travel agencies and travel companies. Amex Travel has been interested in us. We're trying to see if we can work with them. We're working with a lot of consulting companies. I know you mentioned IBM. IBM has a lot of travelers, consultants who travel a lot. So we're trying to provide this as an add-on service to them. This is the code I was talking about from Julian Diaz, who's the CEO of Dufry. And his challenge was he does not know how to get the customers to his store. And the best thing about duty free, what I've seen is most of the product line is pretty much standard. It's perfumes, candy, cigarettes, liquor, things as such. So as a customer, you already know what you want for most of the time. So it's easy for you to browse those products and actually order at a time. Secondly, in most of the airports today, when you buy duty free, you cannot actually carry it from the store. It actually gets delivered to you at the gate because of security reasons. So that component is already taken care of. It's already handed to you at the airport. But what we're making easy is where you can, do the shopping ahead of time. You're heading to the airport, you're in Uber, browse through the app, order your food, do your shopping. Everything is ready to go at the gate. That's the robots I was talking about, and hopefully we'll get there in the next few months. That's a potential market. Again, 2.5 million passengers per day, 9.5 million in revenues, about 30,000 food deliveries. That's what we're estimating from some of the key airports. So from a revenue perspective, it's about $31 million just on the revenues. Just on the food revenue. These are some of the details. I'll be happy to share this, especially from a funding perspective. But again, our major revenue is from the food orders, 2 is from the delivery, and 3 is from the memberships. We have started with B2C, and B2C it was free. But once we get onto the B2B market, as I mentioned, Amex Travel and a couple of other big travel agencies we're working with, is add that as an add-on service to their customers. So you can see year 3, the potential is about 6 million, and then hopefully it will grow to much more than that. Currently where we are, again, as I said, we have been live. We actually launched the initial version of Android in 2016, very, very, very small. But then we are close to about 11,500 downloads as of January 2019. So again, in a good set of customers. The reason why it is still low, this low, is again, as I mentioned, it is an invitation-only app. We really didn't put it out. We ensured that it's a legitimate user. We ensured that they have a valid LinkedIn profile. That's our team. David, unfortunately he couldn't be here. He's in Nebraska. He's the man, he's the muscle man is what we call him. Nitesh, he's the brains behind all of this. He's the guy who built the app. He's the guy who built the technology, and Leslie does all our marketing. So again, please talk about Flight Club. That's our first choice. Thank you.
Great job, thank you. So, let's see, real quick, questions, audience. Tanner, you got a question?
I'm curious, I think I may already know the answer to this. You say you're doing food
Sure. Yeah, the question was, we're doing delivery to the food, are we doing the same for duty free? As a matter of fact, duty free you have to. One of the I guess the regulations is once you buy duty free, you cannot carry it with you from the store. It has to be delivered. So it's already being done. So that part is taken care of. So, yeah. Well, that's a great question. The question was, it's invite only and how do you get to the people? So on the B2C side, we are doing a lot of events, marketing, things as such. But our key thing is once you go ahead and register, we ensure that you have a valid LinkedIn profile, right? So make sure that we'll be able to access, or you have a feature where you can use your LinkedIn as your login. Yes. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Sure. So the question was, we are revenue positive, and it took us about 2 years. But what sort of ask we are? At this point, we're still at the seed round. We're looking about 300K. We have been bootstrapped all along. Fortunately, I was in a position where I could bootstrap, move some of my funding into this. But right now we're looking about 300K, and the majority of that will go towards marketing and sales. There are two components. Our main focus is B2B, wherein we want to partner with anything that's related to travel, airlines, airports, travel agencies, some of the travel clubs. But again, the idea is to incorporate this as an add-on benefit to any of those guys. So it's about 300K. We do need some enhancements, especially if you have to integrate it with duty-free shopping. On the robotics side, the agreement we're working on is we will be actually leasing the robots. So that way there's no upfront cost. We're not paying 10, 20,000 for the robot, but we'll be leasing them. But the challenge is the logistics behind it. So that's where some of the funding will come from. Anything else?
Yep, crazy K-Pack. Like in 4 years, with exclusive invites, you get 11,000. Looks amazing. And also see like a bunch of live streams. The only question that I have is, what is your vision over the next 5 years? Where do you see there being, partnering with payments or with even like major businesses that I mean of, potentially Speight and helping them navigate better decisions. What's your vision?
Well, to your first point, the downloads and how it changed. Fortunately, believe it or not, even I didn't know. I think about a year, 14 months ago, somebody sent me a link on Huffington Post saying, dude, what's going on with Flight Club? You haven't covered a Flight Club. I'm like, I don't know what happened. But Huffington Post actually covered us. So that was a big boost for us, that we actually took advantage, quite honestly, used that for our marketing, and that's where we went to B2Bs and try to enhance that. On the second part, vision itself, the whole goal is this. I'll be honest, and I'm sure you heard of the story where I think it was a professor who was actually dragged out of a flight, I think United Airlines, right? But the challenge was that he didn't know, he could not communicate, and he could not place himself where he had to position. So our whole idea is we want to make sure your airport experience, your flying experience is better. Today there's a lot of, again as I mentioned, there are a lot of portals out there which will help you plan your booking. Great, I mean there's no doubt, you do need that. But how about the execution? How about the actual travel part? And that's where we come in, we want to help with that. There have been talks about extending this to other travel platforms like cruises, buses, things like that. But right now we really want to focus on flights. What else? Oh, thanks everyone.